Hey, listeners. Welcome to Baggage Claim. I'm your host, Lauren Osborne, and my guest today is Lydia. Say hey, girl.
Hey.
And as you guys know on this podcast, honestly, we just talk about our baggage, ours or others, baggage. And we examine the contents of our luggage. As you know, we decide what souvenirs we want to keep and what we want to check in and let go after this episode because we should feel lighter when this comes to an end. Lydia, thank you for being my guest
Thank you
again.
for having me.
Of course, you guys may recognize this lovely voice from the Lizzo episode. I believe that was like episode, oh wow, I should know it, 5 or 6. It's one of those, but we did like a full breakdown, right? Did we do the Lizzo episode?
No,
What was our episode?
this is our first one.
No way.
Yeah,
No way.
it
For real?
is. Yes.
I feel like maybe I'm thinking our conversations like at lunch or something were an
I know.
actual episode. Okay. Okay. Then you guys haven't met Lydia before. So listen to the soothing voice. Hey, girl.
Hi. This is our first official one. We've had kind of like our deep dive convos on the side, but never like
Mm.
officially,
Okay. Well, this is exciting. I like to do 3 like warm-up questions, right?
Okay.
Break the ice. It lets the listeners get to know you better and kind of just like shakes things off. And actually yours are going to be 4 because we had a really
Ooh.
good conversation um about TV, right? And about our shows and about our movies. And one of the questions, and I know this is going to be an episode, right? So I'm trying to figure out like how I want to ask it, but I feel like there are many. So what TV and or no, let's do no, wow, that's tough. Let's do a TV or film character's death affected you. Like literally one that you're like, "Damn, I can't get over that."
Oh, there's so many. But I know we
Right?
had this conversation, and this is
Right.
an odd one, but she was just such a pivotal character.
Mhm.
And most people won't think like, oh my God, why are you upset that this character is dead? But when they killed Queen Latifah and set it off,
Mm.
because one, it was
It
like,
was a horrific kind of
it
death.
was horrific, but part of me wanted her to escape and go to Mexico and live their best life with
Mhm.
Jada with the money. But it's
Mhm.
the fact that how she went out that was just so impactful. And you're just like, oh my gosh, my girl was really about this ride or die life. Like she was like, there's no way. And I feel like her death was more meaningful because if she had not, caused that distraction, the distraction being her death, Jada
Mhm.
Pinkett's character would not have gotten away. So it was kind of like a sacrifice. That's how I
Yeah.
interpret it for her to take all that money that they stole.
Mhm.
But that impacted me. There are like other like bigger ones, but that's just the one where I think about it. First thing that comes to mind, it's like to set it off that. And
Mm.
then like the entire Game of Thrones episodes of every single character I liked was just
Mm.
brutally gone.
Yeah. And some I didn't like.
Yeah.
Um, Mine, it's Mufasa, you know? Beyond traumatic. Uh, Devastating to a child and devastating to an adult. I'm gonna be honest. I love watching that movie, but I do skip it. I do skip that part because I don't want to see it.
Disney did a really good
Somebody,
job. Right.
anybody, and you're like, wow. Ooh,
And
I
then
have a
can you imagine being a young cub and then your uncle frames you for the murder of your parent? Disney knew what they were doing with our psychology.
They really did. Ooh, I have another one, and then we're gonna go to the next one, and that is My Girl. Wears his glasses. He can't see without his glasses. Traumatic.
I have never watched that.
Never mind.
No, but that's good because I can add it to my list. So I tend to rewatch the same two things. Okay, I have a good one.
Mhm.
TV shows, Grey's Anatomy.
Okay. Okay, whose?
There are many.
I know. So whose?
There are many. But when Derek died, that was just like, because they always play that song, Chasing, what is it called? No, it's not Chasing Cars, but I think
If
it's
I
Chasing Cars.
lay here, I'll
Yeah.
find it.
But it was
Yeah,
just like Meredith's react. There are many deaths that I've cried for Grey's Anatomy until like it
so
started
many.
going downhill.
Like
But
patience too. My
yes, but
God.
when Derek died, it was just, oh my God, so sad.
Mm. Yeah, no, that one was heavy. That one was heavy.
I cried for a week straight. I could not watch Grey's after that.
Really?
I was invested in that show.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I'm glad she's gone from the show. I think they needed to have ended it seasons ago.
Mm-hmm.
But when the originals were there, after like that last death, they just needed to just do away with the show. But after Derek's death, there was no recovery from there. And then when Christina left, I was so upset.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved her. I loved Yang so much. Even in her, she just was amazing. She from the jump, and I just felt like in her. But Owen was toxic. You know what? We'll go down the rabbit hole, and that's why that's another episode. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So that was for my guilty pleasure and just enjoyment of talking about the telly. So let's get to my usual questions. Okay. Question number one: what did emotions look like in your home growing up?
Now, I grew up in a very traditional African household. So
Mhm.
emotions weren't really a thing how you normally think about. Like there were strong emotions of,
Mhm.
especially like in a Christian African home, there was an emotion of,
Mhm.
how to be a good daughter, what being a good woman looks like, being a
And
good
what country
wife.
are your parents from?
Cameroon. So I was born and
Cameroon.
raised in Cameroon. Entire family's from Cameroon. But
Badass.
the I love yous that are constant in people's childhood isn't really a thing in most African homes where it's like your parents are super affectionate and they're supportive of your emotions. It's more of like, why are you overreacting or they don't understand? And I was the emotion, like I am very the emotional person where I remember having a conversation with my mom about where I wanted to go to college. I always knew I did not want to go to University of Maryland
You
or
wanted
any
to get
school
out of there.
area. I wanted to get out because it's like I don't
Mhm.
want to see the same people I went to school with.
Right?
And my dream was to go for the longest, go to New York City, go to FIT, be the next Michael Kors type of thing.
Mhm.
Project Runway make like design my future. But
Yes.
in the
You
immigrant
could
house,
still do that. I'm just
I
throwing that
can't.
out there.
And then my oldest sister was very supportive of like, my dreams. And she got me my first sewing machine, which I still
Mhm.
have.
Mhm.
And, in the immigrant household, you kind of have like four career choices, which is doctor, lawyer, engineer, something else in STEM. So being a tailor at the time is what it was. At first, it was like a no-go. And one of her friends, they were talking about her like, you can't let her go to New York City. It's the land of like drugs, prostitution, etc.
Oh no.
And so I was like, I really want to go to New York City. And she was like, absolutely not. I've heard such terrible things about her. And, granted, at the time, teenage me could not understand why she's just shutting this down. But
Right.
the older I've gotten, the more I understood, where my mother was coming from and her emotion, because she also grew up in a time where it wasn't appropriate for you to display, emotions, love, just ever flowing. Not to say that like
Mhm.
my household wasn't loving, it just looked different. It was more of
Mhm.
tough love. And I
Mhm.
remember just crying, trying to
Mhm.
express my emotions. And she was just deadpan looking at me like, why are you being so dramatic? Like, I know what's best type of thing.
Mhm.
And so I just remember all the conversations when it came to me and my mother, it was always me on one end crying because I don't know how
Mhm.
to properly display my emotions. So I end up just crying because I'm trying to get it all
Well, that
out.
is how you are displaying it. It's proper. People express, you can't change how you do it, you know?
Right. But to others, it's like you're just being dramatic. Like you're too emotional, you're
I was
too
called the too
this.
emotional child. I get
Yeah.
it.
And then the other part of it is just like, why are you always crying type of thing. So I grew up having just not displaying emotions, speaking very monotonely and just being like, till this day when people tell me I love you, I'm like, that that's what's up. Thank you, rather
Mm-hmm.
than the I love you too. And it's kind of when I
Mm-hmm.
got to college and I had friends that were like, you need to say I love you back. And I'm just kind of like, this feels odd,
Mm-hmm.
trying to say that as a thing. So that was what it looked like in my household. It was like the love was there, but it came in the form of, are you hungry
Mm-hmm.
after, they yelled at you, or like, what do you want to eat? Or like, I've made
Mm-hmm.
you food, or, I went to the boutique and got you these clothes, but it was never just the like, bye, I love you after a phone conversation. It was like, okay, I'll talk to you later. And then it's
Right.
like, we're
Do
saying
you
they were
think it's
always there.
changed as you've gotten older?
Yes, I think it has one because I'm not at home, and I was also like, I once I left home, I like was barely there. Um, like I went away as far as possible from college. I came back from college. I was still home, but then it's like I moved out a few years afterwards. So
Mm-hmm.
the more I was away, I feel like the closer the bond was, and it was more like the first time I heard my mom say "I love you" over the phone, it was kind of just like okay. Um, that awkward silent of like, she was like, okay, bye,
Mm-hmm.
I love you. And I was just like, okay, because it was just odd hearing it because it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
a constant thing. But it has definitely changed where it's like the older I've gotten, the more it's like she's more also in tune with her emotions and trying to be more emotional. But it's like me and my siblings have this conversation of like growing up, I love you came in the form of like, hey, I've cooked your favorite meal. And after you've had like an argument, though they've scolded you, is like, food is ready, come eat type of
Right.
thing.
Right. Okay. I got you. Mine was very much, well, my listeners know, seen and not heard, affectionate, but super strict and very much a perfectionist. If you're going to do it the right, if you're going to do something, do it right the first time kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, check the dust and, organize drawers and stuff like that. Um, and then when got in trouble, I guess you really what? Because I was a sensitive child. I'm still a sensitive person. So, um, but yeah, thank you for sharing. Are you ready for question? Technically number 3,
Yes, I
but
am.
number 2. Okay. What does joy look like to you?
Oh, that's a good question. For me, it's having the freedom to do the simple things and living on my own terms. Like,
Mhm.
for example, just being content with what I have and like the littlest things, sitting in front of the TV, at Christmas time with a cup of hot cocoa and the fireplace lighting and, just being happy that I have the space to myself and I have the freedom to build the life that I want on my own terms without anyone's
Mhm.
opinion. To me, that's actual joy. Like being able to just, one day randomly get up and say, I'm going to just book a trip to Cancun because I feel like it, type
Yeah.
of thing. Just
Yeah.
having the autonomy to do as you want with your life. Because I feel like as women, you're told
What to
how
do.
to live, what to
Yeah.
do, what to be, how to act. But joy to me is like, honestly, say no. Like
Yeah.
it was so hard for me to like say no and just be like, no, that's a complete thing. Because you always have to say yes to people because of fear of what you're going to be perceived if like,
Mhm.
you're too stern, etc. So that's
And you're
joy.
raised to be polite,
Yes.
accommodating, um, nice,
Hmm.
you know?
So joy is saying no and living life on my own terms and doing the simplest things and just, living
Yeah.
simply.
I like that. Right on. Right on. Great answer. Are you ready for the final one?
I am.
Okay. Dun, 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 dun. I'm just kidding. Okay. What is something, and it doesn't have to be one thing, just something that you want the world to like know about you, that you want people in your life to know about you?
I don't know yet. Like that one defining thing that I want people to know about. Because it's like,
See, it doesn't have to be one, but it could be something.
I don't think I'm there yet because for a very long time, I had a fear of being seen.
Mhm.
I very much wanted to be hidden, be behind the scenes.
Mhm.
So, like, I shied away from revealing so much about myself, even with my social medias, like, not
Mhm.
reveal much. So, I don't think, like, if there was one thing that I would want people to know about me, I have that yet. Just because for so much, it's like I don't want to put myself out there because I don't want to be
Mm.
seen or known. You
Okay.
know,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm still working on that.
Okay. Fair questions. Well, thank you for doing our icebreakers. We've made it through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the baggage that we're bringing today, I feel like we've both experienced this, and that is the baggage of relocation and what that looks like kind of before, after, during. Like, what's your story?
Ah, so I left all my baggage behind when it came to dating. I was very much ready to not carry everything over, start everything afresh, just like
Hmm.
leave it all behind. Because for me, the reason that I mean, there were a lot of factors, but one of like the personal reasons that I had is like I felt it was time. Like I just needed to go. Where you reach a point in your life where things start to feel stagnant,
Hmm.
things you feel a need for change and your soul is telling you like I am no longer happy being in this space and
Hmm.
I want something new. And so there were other like other reasons, but like the personal one, it was like I just knew I was ready and I had that feeling for a while, but it
Hmm.
came to the point where I just didn't want to be there anymore. Like every time I would go out, I was just like, I'm just so tired of being in this area, being in this environment. I just want to go, leave everything behind, basically like live off the grid. But I'm like, that's
Yeah.
not possible. But, I know that I'm no longer, I've outgrown the space that I grew
Hmm.
up with. 'Cause when
Hmm.
we migrated to the States, I had lived in the DMV area my whole life until I went away for college. And then I came
Hmm.
back. So I had outgrown my surroundings and
Hmm.
everything that was familiar. And there was very much a need to just leave it all behind and start afresh. And the story goes I was researching places. Miami was top of mind, could not afford Miami. LA, I felt like it wouldn't be my speed. It just seemed too bougie and out of touch. But I knew I wanted someplace warm. I knew
Hmm.
I didn't want snow. And then I remember I was at work one day and I had gotten a call and my grandfather had passed.
I'm sorry.
And it's okay. But I always knew it was going to happen because he was sick for a while. But his death sort of set things in motion and it kicked it further. And I was like, oh my God, like this was the one male figure that I had grown up with,
Hmm.
and he's no longer there. And it just put something in my mind just shifted and it was like, I need to go. And
Hmm.
so I had been to Houston,
Hmm.
but I had never been to Dallas. My
Hmm.
sister was in Dallas. And so now it became a thing of I no longer I want to move for myself, but it's like, okay, now I'm moving for like family reasons. And I was like,
Hmm.
okay, but what about me? Like, what do I want? And so I remember it was my birthday. It happened around like my birthday. I celebrated my birthday a week after. I
Hmm.
was sitting, I had a dinner with my friends and I was like, no, like, oh, I plan to move. I don't know where yet, but I know like within a year I want to be gone.
Hmm.
2 weeks later, I made the decision. I was like, hey guys, so I'm leaving in a month. And they were
Okay.
like, well, we just talked about this. I was like, yeah, it's really just time to go. And they were like, what thought about it? But in their mind, it seemed so abrupt and sudden and like a chaotic
But you
decision.
already knew. You were
But
built,
I
you
already
already
knew,
came to
yeah, because it
terms
was
with it.
like, it was built up and it just finally came. It was like, I'm making a decision and everything came to play. My lease was expiring that summer. And I was like, okay, I'm not renewing it. And so I called my sister and I was like, hey, I'm coming in Dallas. She's like, you've never been. I was like, I know, but I'll figure it out when I get there.
Hmm.
I had never visited Dallas. So I packed everything in my car, sold some things on Facebook Marketplace, deleted my Facebook.
Hmm.
So after I sold some things, put everything that could fit in my car, and I drove the 22-hour drive here.
22.
Yep, nonstop.
Wow.
Like that's how determined when you're sort of like driven by
Yes.
instinct, it was that of
Yes.
like, I don't know if I'm gonna like it. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I trust myself and
Hmm.
that I know that I'm going to be okay. I'm scared because it's the unknown. I literally don't know what's going to happen, right? And so
Hmm.
I'm just driving through. One, I've never been afraid of taking risk. I've never been fearful of because it's like I solo travel all the time. So, but this
Hmm.
was different because this is now a move. Like this is my
Right.
life that I'm shifting versus
Right.
hopping on a plane and going to a country solo. That's sort of different. But
Hmm.
this is now like packing my entire
Yeah.
life. And once I'm there, I
going.
can't make this drive back. Right.
Right.
So drove there, got in. It was my first time driving through the South. So Virginia, Tennessee, Arkansas, and then Texas. So I showed
Right.
up at like 2 a.m. on the second, tired, red eyed. And I had every plans of stopping along the way, but by the time I got to like the last state before Texas, it was only 4 hours. So I was like, let me just power through.
Yeah.
And so I made it in like 2 a.m. in the morning. My sister welcomed me. I couldn't even really say hey because it was that tired. I went to sleep, slept for like 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to Texas. And people always think like when you move, it's supposed to be like a fairy tale, like everything's supposed to go well. And it did, but they don't talk about the loneliness of it, right? Because
Right.
you're new to an area, you don't know anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I had very much been a person that liked their own space. Like I do things with myself all the time, go on solo dates, go to the movies by myself.
Mm-hmm.
But being in a new space, not knowing only one person, but I barely saw my sister because she worked in hospitality. So the odd hours, I would see her when she came back and when she left. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was just me at home by myself. So I was now in a state that required me to drive everywhere. That
Yes.
was new. Um, Took public transportation. I was like, wow, this is different.
Wait,
Also,
did you try it?
I did. I took
Never been
the
on it
DART
yet.
train and I took it to go to the state fair.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like my first experience. I was like, wow, this is very different. I was like, they have paper cards. And it was
They
a
have
lot
paper
different than
what?
the paper cards because in the DC area we have it on our phones now, like the Metro
Mm-hmm.
app, you
Mm-hmm.
just tap and it goes.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just very different. And then the heat, I was like, it's September. Why is it still 80 degrees? And I was took back at the temperature in Maryland. I'm like, they're in the 50s, but we're in the 80s. I was like, oh, I kind of like this. And
Mm-hmm.
then a weird thing was the pools are open year round and
Mm-hmm.
they don't close. So that was like sort of the things that I was getting acclimated to. But
Mm-hmm.
another thing, part of me was like, I didn't have a community. I would go out and make friends, but it was very much a one-time ordeal where it's like everyone was super friendly, but
Mm-hmm.
to maintain those relationships, it was very much like you would reach out and they would be accommodating for drinks, but you would never hear from them again. And so
Mm-hmm.
a part of me felt very lonely. And I was like, making friends is difficult
It's very hard.
because
As an
back at
adult,
home,
it's insane.
it's insane. And I remember saying, I tell my friends, I'm like, it feels like the Olympics, and I'm really struggling to make friends, which is something that I've never really dealt with. Like, I've
Mm-hmm.
always known, not everyone is for you.
Mm-hmm.
But being here in a new place for like the first 6 months, I would meet people, I'd go to churches,
Mm-hmm.
go to different places, go to brunch, meet people. But it was very much like surface level.
Very
But I
surface.
think what I
Yeah.
was looking for was like authentic communities.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't realize it takes time to grow that because,
Mm-hmm.
in college it's instant, you meet in a few classes, then it's like
Right.
after a few hangouts, you're
Familiarity
friends.
and
Familiarity
proximity is huge.
and proximity. And much of my friends were from childhoods. And,
Yep.
I had people that I had grown up with and people
Mm-hmm.
that I met over the years back at home. So now it's like I have no friends. I only have my sister. And,
Mm-hmm.
she can barely hang out because she's focused on her career. So it's just me.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I was okay with it because, again, I was so used to doing things on my own, like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, in my own solitude. But I was like, no, I need friends. Like, this is lonely. Like, I want to go to
Right.
brunch and have someone, I want to
Mm-hmm.
have a girl tribe. And the more and more I tried putting myself out there, the harder it became. And it felt so much of a struggle to the point where I
Mm-hmm.
started giving up because I was like, I'm trying, but I'm like, is it me? Are they not feeling me? You start
Right.
questioning, like,
Right. It's not you, it's Dallas. But please
right.
continue.
And I didn't realize that the culture was so different of like,
Mm-hmm.
those struggles. Then I was like, maybe I need to be okay with doing things on my own. Then I discovered Geneva. But even with Geneva, it's kind of like you have your good and your bad. Whereas like you meet some girls that you're cool, some are like, you're not for me, but I wish you the best type of thing. And it was like,
Mm-hmm.
now it's like, now I need to push myself out of the comfort zone and become that extroverted person that I'm not, because it's like, you really need that community when you're in a new city because you
Yes.
don't know things, you don't know how to navigate. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, even going to the supermarket, like I would meet people and it would sort of been like, I got the church recruitments, like, oh my God, you're new, join my church. But they would never ask, oh, how are you? How's your day type of thing. It was more
Right.
so like, I'm just being friends with you because I want you to
Right.
join this
I've got a group. I've
organization.
got a small
Yeah,
group. Do you want to come
I've got a
hang?
group, or,
Mm-hmm.
I'm an influencer, or, follow my
Mm-hmm.
page, this type of thing. So for me, I knew like for the types of relationships that I wanted to build, I wanted it to be organic. I wanted a sisterhood, but I also wanted a good group of male and female friends because I realized a lot of my friends back at home were all female. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I had some male friends, but I was like,
I
I'm in
had
a new
one.
space. Right. I'm in a
That's
new
it.
space.
I want to change that, but
That's in the same boat that I am. I was like, I'm in a new space. No one knows me. I am starting over. So why not start over completely, reinvent myself,
right,
essentially, right? Because it's
right.
like that's what you do when you're in a new space. So I was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
things that I've never done, I'm gonna reach out and do all those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, I know that it's gonna take a while for me to have the community hood, the sisterhood,
Mm-hmm.
not just the sisterhood, but have that balance of male and female friendships
Right,
because
right. I
that
want that.
balance of male presence and also
Mm-hmm.
like it's nice having a strong sister group, but no one really talks about the importance of having great male platonic
Yes,
friends that are like
yes.
an anchor there. And so I knew that that was going to take a while, and I just hit my year of being in Dallas, and I have three friends that I can count on and one male friend, but I'm like, it's getting there. It's going to take a while, but it's like, it took a first 6 months of honestly, I did not like Dallas. I already made a plan. I was like, the diversity is not there. The
Mm-hmm.
food is terrible. It all tastes the same. And I was texting my one friend that I had that lived in Houston. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to move to Houston, like, because I'm not feeling Dallas. But she was
Mm-hmm.
like, you have to give it some time. There's different things. And Dallas is very much a city where everything's spread out. Again, not used to driving.
Literally,
And so I
literally.
was like, I'm going to have to drive and go to these places and go to, this mixer by myself and, not try hard, but just be
Mm-hmm.
myself. And those that organically come to me,
Mm-hmm.
then that's the people that are meant to be with me. Cause, you can't force these type of things.
At
And
all.
that's what I had to realize of like shedding my old self because that was the baggage I was holding on to, the familiarity and how I did things back at home. And I'm like, this
Mm-hmm.
is not how you're supposed to do things in a new city. Because for me, it was very much ready. I left my old baggage behind, which was home. Like I was like, I need space. I
Mm-hmm.
need time away. Like I love my friends, they'll always
Mm-hmm.
be with me, but it's like I
Yeah.
needed to let go of that familiarity, that proximity,
Mm-hmm.
and just start afresh and start
Mm-hmm.
things all over. Like I even left my
Launch.
job, and
Launch.
it was like
You
a
wanted to launch.
relaunch.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, I had met you and other
Mm-hmm.
people through Geneva, but it was like, even the first time I met you, I had said, like, you're one of those first people that it just felt organic and wasn't forced. And it's like, if I see you, I see you. But others was very, like, you didn't ask me to join a group or invite me to a church, or it was like,
Girl.
it was very much like, hey, how are you doing? Nice to meet you. How was your day?
Yeah.
Here's recommendation. Where it's like everybody else that I met was like basically like, sizing me up, trying to see what I'm about. And it was like that was very weird to me because it's like when I meet people and just genuine and if we vibe, we vibe. If we don't, it's okay. Like my first friend was a stripper when I got
I
here.
love that. I love
I met her
that.
at a bar and
I love
she,
that.
she was great. And it's like we hung out a few times. I would invite her, but we were very much at different spaces in our lives because,
Mm-hmm.
she had a child and, she
Mm-hmm.
always couldn't hang out and navigating that space. And so it's like, I haven't heard from her, but it's like just meeting her just
Mm-hmm.
because we were both at a bar by ourselves and we were both new and she
Mm-hmm.
was from Atlanta. And she was very much like, you're in a new place. No one knows you. You can do anything. Why are you holding yourself back? And that was
Right.
sort of like the click for me to say, yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going to make it my own, I came here for a reason, right?
Right.
So why am I going to hold myself back? If I made the mission to drive 22 hours to a city where I knew no one,
Mm-hmm.
I clearly had a need to leave. So if I'm here now, why am I going to hold myself back from new experiences, new people, things that are different than what I'm used
Right.
to?
Mm-hmm.
I realize now I'm the baggage. Versus where I thought I was leaving the baggage behind. I am now the baggage that's holding myself back. And I needed to
Right.
leave that and to say, you know what? I'm not bringing this in. I'm getting on this plane with just me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be open myself to new
Right.
opportunities,
I'm going to this destination. I'm
right?
ready. I'm
New
landing.
things. And no one really talks about like relocation is scary. It's like
I've
it's
done it.
lonely.
Yeah. It's
it's
lonely.
lonely, it's challenging. You sit at your, as much as some people can claim, like, I'm a homebody, I love being at home. You want to be out and about.
Like I moved to Florida. I did it for 2 years, right? And then I moved back here because essentially I was running away from my marriage. Now I'm legally divorced. But
Congratulations.
thank you. But it didn't feel like home. It felt like Florida. Okay. Period. Um, but Miami's such a vibe. And you know what? South Florida, I really actually, it's so diverse. It's so just like the lower you go down, the more you're like, yes. However, but I did want to go and I was like, honestly, I left Oklahoma, which is where I'm originally from, and I relocated to Dallas, right? And then I was here and it was home. And right now it's my home. But I want to relocate abroad, to be honest. Um,
I feel that.
but and it's in the works. But I moved to Florida and I mean, I'm not kidding. Well, things definitely didn't go to plan just getting there. Like a lot of things happened, a lot of things that transpired because originally I wasn't meant to be going there alone. I went with a former friend, right?
Hmm.
So then after this happens and like, she kind of abandons me and like leaves me with the bill, whatever. I was alone. That was like not the plan. And I also didn't really have a plan. I literally put my stuff in storage. I sold stuff and I literally said I'm having a yard sale at this house I'm moving out of. Come get it if you want it. And I left. So I didn't really have like I just left. I packed my car, I packed my dogs, and I left. And I got an Airbnb that I was supposed to stay in for a month, and I stayed in there for almost 2 years, just about 2 years.
Wow.
No phone, like no furniture. I just was like winging it. And it was lonely. I would have these moments of just like regret. But now that I look back on it, because even though I needed to change because like it was my I have family there that it was kind of it was a toxic situation and I had to like do a thing where it was like boundaries to where like I can't. I came down here to like be with you and like you're on some relapsing BS and I can't, right? So I was like, okay, where am I going to go? So like this apartment, because I was married before I moved and then I wasn't. This apartment was my first apartment ever, alone, mid 30s. And I did a virtual tour. Like I never saw it. And I came here. But when I was in Florida, and even when I came back, it was so different, right? Because you build a life like with someone, right? Like that's you build your friend circle, like everything. So
Yeah.
literally, it honestly felt like starting over from scratch. Like, of course, I have like a few core friends that I knew, but everyone's also in different spaces in their life. They live further away. So it felt like starting from scratch. And I remember just being like here, kind of like at my apartment, just like, doo, doo, doo. Like, what am I going to do? And thinking, like, at first I thought I just needed peace, but peace turned to silence and silence turned to loneliness.
Yes.
like,
The
like,
silence will get you. But it's also, I think about, because we both have similar experiences where we just packed everything and left.
yeah,
And that transformation, like transformation's not always going to be roses and butterflies. It gets
right.
ugly,
Yes.
and you have to deal with the ugly to come out to what you
Do a
want.
National Geographic and watch how butterflies come out. Okay. It's not beautiful, y'all. It's really like how they're formed in there. It looks creepy while they're in the, what is it called? Sapling? Is that what it's
The
called?
chrysalis, or
Yes, right? They look weird. And even as they emerge, things look unique. Okay. But then they get out of there. But it transforms. Or like a caterpillar into one, the transformation's crazy to look at.
I
TikTok.
know. Because it's like we were in our cocoons, but it's
Yeah.
just, it's not pretty. And it's like, I think people need to be more real of like, it's normal that you're going to feel these episodes of lonely,
And
you know,
struggle.
and
Where you think,
struggle.
what did I do this for? Like,
Exactly. And you're going to doubt your decision. Like, do
right.
I regret it? For the first 6 months, I was like, oh my God, like,
Girl.
am I regretting it? Did I make the right choice? But I know I moved for a reason. Maybe, I was wrong to come here. Is this
Right.
for me? And
Right.
sometimes
It's
it
not.
isn't for you. And you
Mm-hmm.
have to make amends. You be like, you know what? I
Mm-hmm.
tried it. It didn't work out. That's okay. But you have all these doubts and contemplations and the ugliness of it. And then when you're in a new space, what do? You start thinking about dating and trying to navigate that too.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's like, the older you get, you just realize everybody is just trying to figure it out. But for me, I had to put a pause in certain things because I was trying to do it all, make the friends, date, etc. But I'm like, I am new to all these experiences. This is overwhelming. Like, I need to focus on one thing than just like, because I would go out. I was like, I want to go out on a date. I want to feel nice, to get dressed up.
Right. Get
But
dressed
it's like,
up.
even that is a whole nother topic and a whole ordeal.
Because it's a dumpster fire.
It is. And it's like, you don't even want to deal with it because you're just like, it is really the trenches and who's raising these people.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, but then you go out and you just want to navigate things. But even with the older we get, it's like friendships looks different because you're no longer in high school where you guys can talk 24/7 or be there for each other. It's like people are in different stages in their lives and they have real things going on that they may not necessarily share. But it's like, just because we haven't talked in 2 months, etc., I am always there type of thing. And so it's trying to navigate friendships in adulthood of like, I know we haven't spoken in a while, but hey, just catching them. And sometimes you even need appointments to see your friends that live in the same city as you because schedules don't align. So it's like looking back at it after a year, I'm still figuring out, but I'm glad now I'm starting to understand, like, I'm glad I make the choice and it's starting to feel like home. But it took a full year for me to come to terms of, hey, it's different. I'm here now, this is home and I just have to make the best of it. And every step is going to look different. Every journey, every month, going to navigate it differently. And it's like, I left for a reason. And I remember what that feeling was, what that need in me was to say, I need to go. And I'm glad that I listened to that. But, it's scary now because I've never shied away from taking risk in my life. I've very much been a person who's like, if there's something I want, I go for it. But then you get in it, right? You make the decision and then you're in the decision. And then you have to deal with the consequences of your decision and say, wow, I thought I had this fully thought out. But clearly I don't because it's not turning out how I wanted it to go, especially when you're controlling aspects of your life. But at the end of the day, life is going to life.
Life is going to life.
You can have it all planned out. It's going to be like, haha, you thought that was how it was going to be, but here's
that
this
was cute.
Right, like that was cute, girl. But no,
cute.
It's like every day, and then it's like even just when you're sick alone in a new place, like there's no one there to care for you, to send to. Like you have to be your own caretaker. Like
caretaker.
You have to do all these things on your own and you're just like, oh, I don't want to bother anyone. They just met me. You don't have that shoulder to lean on. And it's just like, it's just you.
Right.
And you have to be okay with that. And it's, it's scary, but it's like the older I've gotten, now approaching like my late 20s, I just turned 27, but it's like, I have to be okay with that too, that life is going to be me for a while. I have to be okay to be all these things for myself. And to know, like, there's no one out there coming to save me. There's no one there that's, like, I'm my own ride or die, essentially. And it's, I'm getting okay with that to just say, this is life. This is the life that I want. This is the future that I want to build. And it's, I have all these goals and aspirations, but change is scary.
God, yes.
Going into the unknown is something that I would recommend for everybody, but it's like once you're in the unknown, it's kind of like navigating the ocean in the middle of the night. You don't know what's there. It's just vast darkness and you're just like going off instincts, but sometimes you question your own instinct. But I feel like, I've always told myself, if I don't listen to myself, then I'm dishonoring myself in a sense because my gut has never lied to me. So in turn, it's me honoring myself, but I'm going to listen to what you want. And that it's like my instinct saying, hey, trust me. I need you to calm your doubts in your mind and just, it's going to be okay. You don't need to know it all, but I'm a person that needs to know it all,
Right.
But it's like, you don't need to know it all. Just
sign?
Trust. Right. I'm a Taurus.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so earth sign. It's like, I need to know. At least I need to know 5 years. But it's like, honestly, I'm trying to come to terms, like, I don't know what the next 5 years is going to be.
Right.
And that's okay. You know, I don't even know what December is going to look like. But it's like, I'm a person that plans a trip a year out, and I have the hotel planned and, you know, the flight planned 6 months in advance. But it's like moving, I had to come away from those like patterns that I'm used to, even though I'm very much a planner, but I had to be like,
how was it picking your electricity company?
oh my God. It was, that is something they don't talk about. Like 10 different companies. And I was like, I don't know what these terms mean.
Right.
And I just like, I'm just hoping for the best, you know? It's like, I picked one and I still don't know if it's right, but I'm like, my energy bill's low. At least that's something.
I picked TXU. You want to know why? I saw it on a bulletin. And this is when I first got to, you know what? It looks right.
See, I saw them, but I was like, this price is right. So I went with Clean Sky Energy.
Nice.
And,
very nice. It's all the same electricity. It's Encore. Like, that's it. You're just picking random wattage.
Different brands.
Right?
But it was just different. And it's like, I'm glad I did it, but it's like, no one fully talks about what that looks like, you know? And especially because we moved at a time where the world was very much in chaos. And now the cost of living is so high that it's still just like, you know, people are trying to, moving during a pandemic era is like, that takes, you know, guts of steel. Because it's like,
girl, people were masked up. And I was like, I'm out. And you know how much time I spent? I don't want to say it's lonely, because I do think that that's when the power of connection and community really works. Yeah, I spent the first half of COVID living alone on Clubhouse. Like, literally, those were my friends. Like, I talked to my friends back home, which most are from, like, my closest friends, like my besticles, are from Oklahoma and are in Oklahoma. Right? I talked to them and I talked to people on Clubhouse, and then it was my dogs. Like, people don't tell you that, right? Like, you think you're going to like go to and I'm kind of a nervous person, like hyper vigilant, but I have high anxiety, right? Like, I have a hard time going places. Like, I'm just now in the past like 2 years started like taking myself on a date, like being okay sitting in a restaurant alone. Like, I just had a hard time with it. And I always needed, like, it was the first time, like when you were like, I'm a solo traveler. I have just started doing that in the past, 5? Well, no, actually, I've been doing it since college, but I mean, I was meeting like someone, right? Or like a group or something, you know what I mean? And so it's made me, and I'm going to ask the same for you, because for me, when I look back on I packed my stuff and I'm moving to Florida, on my pack my stuff and I'm moving to Texas, and maybe on my next journey, who knows? But when I look back, I look like, dang, girl, you did that. Like, I right? Where you're like, oof, and it was rough, especially now that you're coming on to like year one. When you look back now, like, how do you feel about it?
Honestly, to me, you know how you just said, like, you look back and you're like, I did that. And, like, I have friends telling me, like, you did that. But to me, it just feels, because it's like, I'm used to making those drastic things. Like, you know, when I moved to college, I drove myself to college. Like, and driving through middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania to get to school. But it's like, it hasn't dawned on me, like, you've made this move. It just feels like a regular thing. But like, I know eternally, like, I've managed to live on my own, knowing like, no one.
Literally.
The community, you know? Literally. Even if I just have 2 friends, that's okay. Like, that's
huge.
That's a huge thing.
It's courage, because it's scary.
Yeah. And it's like, I think we need to come to a better state of congratulating ourselves for the small accomplishments.
Girl.
Because it's no small feat, you know?
It's really not. Leaving, it's huge. Like when you think about it, you're like, holy crap. I literally closed a chapter of my life. It didn't close for me. I closed it and told myself, I'm writing a new one. And you look back and you're like, and I'm writing it. Exactly. I'm a writer now.
You are the author of your life. And it's like, at each different stage. Every day you're writing it. And, the next journey might be like, now it's time to close the chapter on the United States and leave that
Right.
permanently and start over somewhere else.
Right. Who knows?
Who knows? We don't know. And it's like, we just take it day by day, and it's, listening to ourselves at each stage of our lives. It's like different things arise, different needs arise. And, you're a different person, and you now have to meet those needs for that new requirement.
Like, literally. And you know what it also told me? And I'm sure you're actually feeling this too. Like, you know what? I could do it again.
I can,
I
yes.
can do it again. Like, I can do it. If something happened and I had to start fresh, or not even had to, I just wanted to, I can do it. Like, I can sit with myself. I know at this point I can build a community. I know that there are growing pains and discomforts, but I'm still here, dude, with a smile on my face, you know?
Exactly.
Like,
And you've survived
yes,
what you
yes,
thought is the worst. So if you
yes.
can get through that, this is a breeze. The next time will be a breeze.
Yeah. So shout out to guys, if you're relocating, if you feel like it's time for you to launch, don't be afraid to launch. But just know that where you land, there could be, some pebbles in the shoes a little bit. It's an adjustment. You may have to go from boots to sandals, but hang in there because I think you will surprise yourself and
Absolutely.
impress yourself by just being like, damn, I did that. Like, I did that.
And I survived, and I
And I
thrived,
survived.
most importantly, and
Thrived.
thrived.
Yes. It makes a huge difference. Um, well, yes. Any final thoughts on relocation before we pick um our souvenirs? Because I think we already kind of said what we were checking in, but I'd like to do it one more time at the end before we.
I would say final thoughts is just do it. You never know what's going to wait for you on the other side.
Right.
And the best part of the journey is going through it. It's not the final destination.
No.
It's what happens during it. Like every single stage, every single lesson I've learned, I'm appreciative of it. Of course, during the time, I'm like, it sucks when, it's rough,
Yeah.
but it makes you a better person. You learn about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
surprise yourself, and you're like, you know what? I'm unstoppable. I can
Yes.
do this.
I can do it. Hell
Exactly.
yeah. Okay. So for the baggage for this episode, what would you check in? What do you want to toss?
I would toss the need for validation
Mm-hmm.
and the need for like acceptance and all. Because I think one of the things that I struggled with was like, and this came a lot when I moved. Like I would constantly post on social media for that connection, right? But it was
Mm-hmm.
me trying to like manipulate my perception that others had of me of just like
Mm-hmm.
posting the good, not showing the authentic. Because, going
Mm-hmm.
back for that fear of being seen. And it just stemmed from a need of wanting to feel validated, wanting to
Mm-hmm.
feel seen or like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
look at me. So I would toss all of that, the need, people pleasing, being a yes person, just leaving all that. But that's what I
Mm-hmm.
would check in and just been like, you can toss it away.
Okay. Okay. And what souvenir are you keeping?
Souvenir, bravery, just courage.
Yes. I love that. I love that. I think for mine, for this episode and for this week, I'm going to let go of just what doesn't serve me. Some things, everything kind of has a purpose. And I mean that in a it's not a good thing like, oh, this happened for a reason. No, it just happens because things just happen, right? And I just feel like sometimes you got to let shit go that just doesn't serve you, and not in
Exactly.
it's not a good in a bad way or whatever. It's just it had its time. So that's what I'm checking in is what just doesn't serve me. And my souvenir besides courage, I think it's going to be I'm going to stay impressed.
I love that.
Because I'm going to stay impressed. I'm going to stay impressed with other people, the people that shine, and it comes from within and out, but within, I'm going to
Mhm.
stay impressed. I'm going to stay impressed kind of with myself because I think you impress me. And I think rarely people don't say that enough. Like, I think sometimes people need their flowers because I think we're getting a lot of colds, man. So, that's what I would do. That's what I would take.
Love that takeaway.
Yeah. Well, listeners, thank you so much for checking in to well, no, because that's what we're checking in. Thank you so much for stopping in to this baggage claim episode. Please be on the lookout for the next couple months because our red eye flight episodes where you will subscribe will be available. As always, and what I always say every episode, everyone has baggage. It looks different. Like, you don't know what kind of baggage anyone's carrying, but everyone has it. And the gift we can always remember is that you choose what you carry. Where can they find you? Do you want people to find you? Do you want people to find you online? Do you not? It's
Honestly,
okay
I
if
went
not.
through, I have a TikTok, but I went through a stage where I deleted all social, I deleted Instagram because
Yeah.
I was very much addicted to it.
Mm,
But, I think with just the pandemic and everything that has been happening, there's been a need for me to disconnect from socials. But if
yes.
you want to find me, I'm always on TikTok. That is the
Yes.
one app that's like I love it for the laughs and giggles.
Literally tears
So we can be,
sometimes.
yes, but I'm in a space where, you know, I'm okay with not being found because it's like the people that want to find me will find
We'll
me.
find you.
Exactly. But, with social, I just kind of had to disconnect from it because it's like, it's
Yeah.
my job, it's everything. And it's like, it just became too performative and curated and,
Yeah. Yeah.
aesthetic.
Aesthetics. Okay, cool. Well, you can always find me on Instagram because it's my only one that connects to this podcast, which is LJ4321. All of the website information will be in the comments and, of course, in the bio. Thank you so much, as always, for listening to Baggage Claim. If you like it, give it a like, give it a subscribe, share it, whatever. And we will talk to you next time. Lydia, thank you so much for being on the show. I forgot to say that before. We'll talk to you next time. Thank you
Thank
so
you for
much for
having me.
joining. And our next episode, we are going to be talking about TV. So prepare yourselves. We'll bring the baggage. I'll try to find something to equate. But anyway, thanks for listening, guys, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.